Find your voice, we rise and create. Step into the sound, together we grow. Feel the beat, let your spirit elevate. Light and sound, let your colors show. Find your voice, we rise and create. Step into the sound, together we grow.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am Grant, and I will be introducing you to the basics of microphones and getting it all set up in Windows. If you're going to be doing this on a Mac PC, I would highly recommend referring you to the Mac guidelines for that. Okay, so like if you go to your Mac user guide, you can kind of follow along while also using this as well. So just kind of to one's own discretion, this is primarily going to be for Windows users. Mostly because that's just what I know. All right, so we're going to get into it. So let's say you picked up a microphone. Let's figure out what kind of microphone you got. There's two primary microphones that most people will get. You're going to either have a condenser or you're going to have a dynamic microphone. Most people, depending on their circumstances, should probably start with a dynamic microphone. So here's kind of an example of a dynamic microphone. You're going to have more success later on if you just get some sort of mixer, and it can be very simple, just like the one you're seeing right now, which is just a preamp with a few notches for gain. Some key features that you kind of want to look for when you're purchasing your preamp is the diversity of it. Anything that doesn't have any sound treatment, dynamic mics will be the best option for you. It doesn't pick up a lot of that extra echo, and we'll go into what might like dynamic versus condenser. There's no right answer. It is 100% dependent on your entire environment and what you need for the thing that you're doing. We'll look at some condenser mics that exist. Usually a condenser mic is going to have that more flat or bigger diameter on it. So like something like this. Some big key things to kind of take away from that is once you do have your mic, and if you're looking at it right now on your deal, I would take your phone and I would shine a light inside here, and you should be able to see the condenser, the aperture itself, where the voice itself is being picked up. You'll probably see a shiny side, and then you'll see a dull side. Okay, so if you bring up, if you see that shiny part in there, that shiny part is going to be the back side. So, and most of your microphones will also either say back, where they're labeled back, or they can say front, where they're labeled front on the actual mic itself. It just depends on the brand you have. And so that's kind of the thing. But you'll have that dull and that shiny side. The dull side is most likely going to be the side where the actual aperture of the speaker itself. All right, so then you're going to have, where is the sound coming from with that microphone? Each microphone is going to have its own thing. Most of them are going to be labeled. If they're not labeled on the microphone itself, it'll be labeled in the box that it came with or in the guidelines for the microphone. If you don't have either of those things and it's not labeled on the microphone, what I recommend is just Googling your microphone. And there are some caveats when you are talking on dynamic mic. This isn't going to be as important. But on a condenser mic, the biggest problem you're going to have sometimes is your P's, your T's, your S's will sometimes sound aggressive, even to the point of going overboard. So there's some options for that. You can get some sound, some sort of cover that will kind of reduce that effect. There's also the ability to have this. Some of them come with these things, some of them don't. Just depends. It is all up to you and what you want to do in your environment to help yourself. The other advantage is quite literally if you just turn it slightly and you're not hitting it straight on, that can also solve a lot of your problems. So there's also that as a helping hand. And so that's why it's important to know what your mic, the shape of the sound it's most going to absorb from which direction. That's why these are important. Almost all of the mics that you're going to be dealing with as a voice actor are going to be primarily the cardioid or the hypercardioid. So let's go over some of this. So like, how do you know you've picked the right mic? So assuming you've gotten the mic and let's say it's a USB only microphone. So a lot of people have those. I mean, you're going to have people that are going to say one is better than the other. The biggest difference between a USB microphone and something that has an XLR cable for the microphone is your ability to switch out. That's one of the biggest differences right now that you're going to have is if you ever want to upgrade to the XLR microphone styles, you're going to have some sort of interface to then get to the computer because every USB microphone has its own interface embedded inside it, which also tends to make them bulkier. So a dynamic mic, as you're seeing on the screen, dynamic mics, simplification of it, sound travels. It's a surface that is attached to usually a copper coil that is then surrounded or inside of a magnetic tube. Depending on how far the coil goes along that magnet is what essentially drives the sound. So that's what's the conversion rate from a sound wave in the air, but then the electromagnetic spectrum, that's how it's capturing that. It allows for more intense sounds to be eliminated as a result, and it can't be as sensitive as a condensing mic because the condensing mic operates slightly differently. So the condensing mic is going to have essentially that plate, and then depending on how far the plate itself moves, the distance between one magnet and another magnet is what's causing that fluctuation itself is what's allowing for the signal to be transferred over versus the coil around the magnet that then articulates back and forth. That's why a condenser mic is going to be far more sensitive than a dynamic mic. The dynamic mics are great for environments that have untreated sounds. These are just the caveats to both. So whichever microphone you have, just know that that's what possible issues you could have with them. If you have an untreated environment and you have a condenser mic, you might have more issues than if you just had a dynamic microphone. You can solve a lot of issues with just that without going overboard and expensive with all of your soundproofing. So let's assume you've connected all the stuff up correctly, depending on your setup. You got your XLR mic is all connected. But let's say maybe, I don't know, you're gonna just want to use like your gaming headset for some reason. Totally up to you. Just know that there's going to be certain quality issues, like a USB specific microphone, or you're not using a XLR microphone with a preamp on it. It's an audio interface preamp. So I mean, there's do's and don'ts, but generally speaking, most gaming PC microphones are going to be okay. They're definitely in that in-between stage of not great, but they will work in a pinch. Also why I still have one, because they do work in a pinch. Most of them that you get though, you're gonna have that USB connection just to power it itself, and then you'll probably have some sort of jack that you'll have. But for my computer, just because of the way it's set up, it can't do, which is it doesn't do the headset and the microphone simultaneously very well. So what I had to get is I had to purchase a dongle that then splits the headset and the microphone into 2 different intakes so that I can plug it in properly to my computer, and that solved my problem. I will note this goes for anything revolving any sort of setup at all. The more dongles or in between items that you have for any setup, any of those are going to add interference of some kind. How much interference depends on the quality and depends on a bunch of other factors that we don't really need to get into. The more things you have between your microphone and your PC, the more interference possibilities exist. All right, let's say you've gotten your XLR cable. Yes, you can go out and get the fancy gold-plated XLR cable. You don't need to. A simple XLR cable will do just fine. When you do get the XLR cable, or if you've already had one, you may already kind of know this, but I highly recommend getting a tape measure that's flexible, using that to find out how much cable you'll need. I recommend always going 5 feet over what you've measured out, just so you have a little extra breathing room, and so it's not a big deal. You can't stretch cable. So I recommend also not daisy chaining XLR cables, because again, same concept as before. The more you put together, the more likely you're going to have interference of some kind. So what I recommend is get one length, one cord for the whole thing. You might want a stand of some kind, generally speaking, so that you don't just hold it there. Yeah, you can go out and get your $179 Pro version, or you can get a $29 stand and they work just as well. It just depends on what you want, what your budget is. There is really no right or wrong answer here. It is behind me. Okay, so the big thing here is when you do get a stand, this may or may not come with your mic, or it may come with your stand. It just depends. Some of them come with one or the other, but you're going to have some sort of isolating gizmo of some kind, the technical term. But essentially all it does is it lets things move around without it bumping into other things. And the biggest thing is it eliminates vibrations on any sort of microphone. So that's an important factor there. Setting it up on Windows. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go into your search bar. So just type the Windows key or go over to your Windows icon and click on it. Type in settings. You're going to go to settings and then it will bring you here. Or it'll bring you here probably, but then go into system, go over to sound, and then you're going to see all of your sound options here. Go into volume mixer. You're going to have a systems sound, so this is going to be your standard sound that goes into as a default setting. So when you come over to here and you click default, it'll default to that. If for some reason one of the apps that you have open isn't showing up here, my recommendation is to play a sound using that app. Whatever application it is, play the sound and then come back to here and it should almost certainly show up. That if you have multiple, it's connected to the right device. And what we're going to do now is we're going to also look at to make sure it's properly reading it. So define the control panel. You're going to do the same process, but instead of settings, you're going to type in control panel. It'll look like this icon. And then once you do that, you're going to come into the control panel. You're going to click on change. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can just click on sound. The same thing will pop up. So that's what you want to see. And you're going to see things that are disabled or not disabled. Right clicking on it will let you enable or disable it. And if it's not showing up, you come over here and say show disabled devices or show disconnected devices. So some of these are disconnected and they've just they were here at one point, no longer are here, but it still knows that it at one point did exist. Essentially, you just hit enable or disable on it. That's the only real way to bring it up. And then once it's done that, you're going to come into here and you're going to see these, all this here. I do caution against a few things. One, I caution against manipulating the sound here. Do not lower or raise sound here on any real application. You should be doing that all through whatever application you're using. That way it's all being done in one spot and you don't have any issues with one spot doing it and another spot not doing it, and then you try to do it in the other spot. That one, it's just a giant mess. I highly encourage using the application itself for the sound management, and if you have a mixer, use that as the spot that you're doing it all in. Okay, so important thing to note. So your microphone level should be anywhere between 70 and 85%. Mine's a little bit lower because of my specific circumstances of how I'm doing stuff here. But be aware that putting it at 100% is probably not the best idea. You want a little bit of room so it's not overblowing some stuff. So between 70 and 85% is the ideal range. It could be lower depending on your circumstances. Just depends on the microphone, so I'd play with that a little bit. And you can see right here that while I'm talking, you can kind of see the levels happening here. This is not a great representation of the levels that you're able to see, only because of my... once you've got it all connected, it's all showing up here. Yeah, you've disabled all the microphones that you don't want. So like if you have a computer that has a microphone with it, like a laptop, or you have a camera that you have on your computer that also has a microphone, I recommend disabling those so it doesn't ever interfere. So everything's connected. If it's showing up in your icons like it was for mine, then you should be good to go. What we're going to cover next time is we're going to cover Audacity specifically, and we're going to go over from download to making sure all the microphone is still connected and it's showing up in Audacity correctly. But that'll be in part 2. So I'll see you there.